Hello, and welcome to Reddit Rewind, where we cover Reddit's most ridiculous stories. So today's story is titled, Karen Got Slapped. XXL. Okay, so this only just happened a few hours ago, and I still have a bit of adrenaline rush, so bear with me. As everyone is bound to know, shopping lately has been a little hectic. The mass crowding has gotten better now that there are limitations on how many people can enter shop at one point. But everyone is still pretty stressed out and all dolled up in their lovely, fashionable face masks. All that being said, there is no excuse for what this woman did. I live in England, and over here we have a certain big supermarket store with a burgundy orange themed uniform. So after finally getting through the queue into the store, I grabbed a cart and I was off. I was there for maybe 20 minutes when I rounded the condiments aisle and caught what happened. First, there was a woman, younger looking, maybe a teenager, who was wearing an orange jacket. But it looked like one of those bright neon tracksuit ones, not the uniform, crouching down on her knees, looking through whatever was on the lowest level. I do that sometimes. The cheaper stuff tends to be from food companies who can't afford the premium shelf space. And she was wearing AirPods. Next, there was an older woman. Not a Karen in the typical haircut, overweight, overdressed sense, but she did have that face. "I'm too important to keep waiting. Serve me now, peasant." Face, and no mask, standing behind this clearly oblivious girl. She had to have been trying to get her attention before I even walked into the aisle, and for some reason, the moment I appeared, she snapped. I'll never know what possessed her, but this older lady actually reached down and grabbed the younger by her underarm, yanking her up to face her. The girl reacted as I believe many would. Without even asking questions, she yelped, spun off balance, and clocked Karen right in the face. It was glorious. The woman's nose started bleeding, and the young lady was just standing there in shock. Someone loudly announced that they were going to go get an employee, while I put myself between the Karen and the young girl, fearing the older woman may try to retaliate. The girl looked dumb with shock. Meanwhile, Karen started screaming. I didn't really catch what she was saying in the haze of it all, but I know a bloke behind me was shouting back at her, telling her she shouldn't have grabbed the girl and that it was her own fault. More screaming. Then the employees showed up. From there, it was just a matter of getting everyone's stories. Pretty much everyone who stuck around saw Karen grab the girl first, so Karen had no leg to stand on. Though it didn't stop her from demanding the police be called and that she was going to press charges. The police had already been called by the manager, and us witnesses were asked to stay and wait for them. Some couldn't, as they were with their families and such, but I, having nothing better to do, stuck around. At this point, the girl had calmed down and was just kind of standing there, silently, while the woman continues to scream about pressing charges and suing and fired, while the manager just kept on repeating things like, She doesn't work here, ma'am. Please calm down, ma'am." The police questioning was actually pretty fast, if boring. Not at all as interesting as it is in the movies. I didn't get to see the grand parade of Karen being dragged away in cuffs, sadly. Once all the statements had been taken, both women were escorted outside by the police, and that was pretty much the end of it for me. I did still see them in the parking lot speaking to different officers, but couldn't get close enough to hear anything that went down. I made sure the police and the store had my number, just in case, finished my shopping, and then went home. It's been a few hours. It was surreal, and I'm actually kind of hoping it ends up on YouTube in the next few days. So, there's my story. Hope it entertained. That story did entertain. It did not disappoint. Seeing that would have been glorious, as our OP says. That Karen type should not be touching another human being that they don't know and surprise them the way she did by picking them up by their armpit. That's just, who does that? Maybe a tap on the shoulder or getting in front of them in their line sight and waving. Those are the ways to do it. But what this woman did, not cool. And the reaction from the younger lady, although it is a bit of an overreaction in my opinion, I completely understand it because she probably felt she was being aggressed and was surprised. Still a normal reaction. Well, I looked through the comments section and I found a few posts that I thought were relevant to this. Here's our first post. Karen totally deserved to be smacked in the face. You don't go and grab people like that, even if they do work in the store. Employees of stores are also human beings, Karen. You don't have the right to manhandle them. Yeah, and this goes along with what I was saying before. You don't manhandle people, you don't approach them the way she did, especially if you aren't acquainted with them or it's someone familiar or a friend. But yeah, I agree with this comment. So the next comment, I mean, why would grabbing her be your first reaction? Maybe tap her on the shoulder, and I'm talking about tapping her like a normal person to get her attention, not digging your little freshly manicured claw into her shoulder blade with an air of annoyance because you assumed she worked there and was ignoring your petty request. Man, it would be interesting to hear the story Karen told the police. Infuriating, maybe, but also interesting. Yeah, again, agreed. The reaction from the Karen to grabbing the person, awful. You don't manhandle people. Yeah, and I agree. I would love to actually hear what the Karen told the police because it would be fascinating seeing what would actually justify her, in her mind, grabbing someone the way she did. Yeah, Karens. So the next comment, people really should not be touching strangers. It is also so inappropriate for any customer to touch a store employee. Even if the girl did work there, the customer's action was seriously inappropriate. You do not get to touch someone just because they're providing you a service. They aren't your property. You should never just reach out and effing grab a stranger's arm. WTF. People seriously need to learn to keep their hands to themselves, even when we aren't in a pandemic. I've been touched by customers while working in a grocery store, and it's seriously uncomfortable. It's always older people, and they seem to think it's perfectly okay, but it really isn't. It's weird and uncomfortable. Yes, employees at a supermarket are people too. You gotta treat them with respect and handle them like you would any other human being. Keep your paws off them. So, guys, what do you guys think? Do you think that the Karen acted inappropriately here? Do you think the young girl's reaction was appropriate as well? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to actually hear what you guys have to say about this one. All right, and on to our next story, titled, Whistling at Me is Not the Way to Go. XL. This just happened 1 hour ago. I'm wearing a white hoodie, black pants, and Nike trainers, as well as clearly visible headphones and a snapback hat. In no way do I look like I work, well, anywhere really. So I'm essentially having one of those days. I hate everyone and everything and just want to be left alone. However, I had to do a little bit of shopping, so I went down to the local supermarket to pick up a few items. Bit of food, drinks, etc., walking around with my cart, headphones on, listening to old rock songs like Linkin Park, 3 Days Grace, that kind of thing. Just going about my day. When my phone rings, which cuts my music off, so I answer the phone and take my headphones out, just so I don't end up shouting inside a busy supermarket like a crazy person. When a soft, "Excuse me," gets said. So I push the cart and myself a few steps forward, still talking on the phone. "Excuse me," a little louder this time. I quick glance back and move to the opposite side of the aisle, completely out of the way. "I said, excuse me. Now answer me and help me," this woman bellowed. I look at the lady and showed her my phone and said, "I don't work here. Go bother someone else." She just stands there, tapping her foot, looking at her watch. I look at her, shaking my head, clearly getting annoyed with her constantly tapping her foot, sighing, and mumbling under her breath. I lower my phone and ask her, "Can you leave me alone? I just said I don't work here." She just shakes her head, looks back at her watch, then whistles at me like a dog, holding her arms out to her side. "Are you done yet? I need you to help me." I just ignore her and she whistles again. So I lash out, "Listen here, love. I'm not an effing dog, so don't whistle at me like one." She looks at me in shock and horror, then slaps my phone out of my hands and walks off. I shake my head as she goes away, picking up my phone and then yell at her, "Excuse me," and whistle at her as she turns the corner. I had a good laugh with my friend on the other end of the phone after that. It cheered me up and has currently got me through the last hour of my day so far and will keep me going. Also, upon remembering my last two stories, I realized my phone seems to attract crazy people and tends to get hit out of my hand. Wow, what that Karen did was awful, especially if the story is true. It's Reddit, so we don't always know. But if the story is true, This Karen's reaction was completely out of line. The OP actually told her that he didn't work there several times, and she still acted like a complete bitch. I don't get why she didn't listen to him and believe him. Maybe there's details that's missing. Maybe it did look a little bit like a uniform, even though he says it doesn't. But yeah, this woman sounded absolutely crazy. So I looked through the comments section and I found a few posts that I thought were relevant. Here's the first one. The worst part of this story is the part where you said old rock songs referring to 3 Days Grace. Ouch, bro. I can't be that old. Yeah, it was actually hard for me to believe that the bands he mentioned, like 3 Days Grace and Linkin Park, are now considered old. I guess it has been a while since they released a few albums, so they are old rock songs now. Kind of a wake up. The next comment. This happened to me when I was volunteering. I'm a Girl Guide leader, Girl Scouts in the US, and I was running a coffee morning, so pouring coffee, etc. And a wee old lady whistled at me for more cake. I promptly ignored her, and when she whistled again, my retort was, "I'm not a dog." Then I sent one of my girls to deal with her. Haha. I don't know what the appropriate reaction is to someone who whistles at you, especially if you're in the service industry. This whistling thing is crazy. Never happened to me, but I honestly don't know how I would react. But I think this person's reaction with telling her she's not a dog and then sending someone else to deal with her is a pretty good reaction. All right, and on to our last post. Your patience astounds and impresses me. How many times must you tell a Karen that you are not an employee before they make the connection that you are therefore not obligated to help them in any fashion? Having worked in a grocery store myself, I know that most have a peculiar, recognizable uniform, which most employees are required to wear. Anyone not in said uniform is either management, a vendor, or a customer. Management would not be dressed as you described, and the latter two are also no way obligated to answer your beck and call. Simple crap, Karen. Get lost. Good on you for not slapping her right back. So looking at this comment, yes, this OP showed extreme patience. The fact that he stayed cool even though she was treating him like crap, being annoying, and then whistled at him, and let out a pretty timid reaction after she slapped his phone out of his hands was very impressive. And as I stated before, and as the OP states before, grocery stores do have uniforms. The fact that he wasn't wearing them and she couldn't recognize it, and he told her he didn't work there, this woman was crazy. And my last thought on this whole story, if this OP is getting his phone slapped out of his hands more and more often, he should really be getting a Bluetooth earpiece and a very good phone protection case, because phones nowadays, especially smartphones, are quite expensive. Okay, guys, those were our stories for today. I hope you liked them. Please let us know what you think in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time.